Hi there and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be discussing the real differences between Godot, Redot and Blazium, which are, in the case of these two, the two main forks of Godot. Basically the two, let's say, copies of Godot or alternatives to Godot right now due to different discrepancies in the Godot community for different reasons. Okay, we're not going to be getting deeper into that. The important thing here is that I've personally spoken to some developers of both Redot and Blazium, and they actually shared a lot of important data that we're going to be talking about in this video, okay, that probably you would not be able to find it out there on the internet, or at least if you are able to find them on the internet, you won't be able to have the actual explanations that the official developers and moderators of Redot and Blazium provide. So there is a lot of research behind this video, so I really recommend that you have a seat and that we start discussing. Once again, I know that this is a super hot topic. I am not like a super professional game developer or Godot developer, so if some information of here is not accurate enough, if I missed something, please kindly let me know in the comments down below so that I can mention that data in the following videos. So first of all, let's start with the most important thing, I believe, which is the current version. Right now, Godot is in version 4.4.1, as you can check over here. Redot is in 4.3, so it is going to be lacking everything, or mostly everything that was integrated in 4.4. We're going to see this in a second. And Blazium, in reality, it is said that it is in version 4.3, but it has something like 90% of features that were included in Godot 4.4, okay? So that's why I basically put there 4.4. First of all, let's go ahead and download these three engines so that we see the differences that we have at a first sight. So first of all, downloading these engines is quite similar. So in case of Godot, you just press over here, download latest, you select your version, whatever you need, wait a couple of seconds, and there you have the zip file. In Redot, well, get Redot engine for Windows. Here we have, of course, different websites, okay, in terms of design. Download now, something that I pretty like about this in particular is that, well, you have the stable version, the latest version, and the mono version. So this UI is pretty interesting. We're going to download the latest version so that we get the beta version of it and not just a 4.3 stable. And in terms of Blazium, we go to get Blazium. And here, once again, it is a pretty different UI. I want to Blazium, I want the release, not the nightly. I want the release. The latest version available for Windows. In this case, you select the version. Most cases, it's going to be this one, which is Windows for 64 bits. They also support, by the way, ARM builds. Okay, we're going to be checking that in a second, and I'm going to with C# support. So let's basically download it. And well, as you can see, we just have three zip files. In the case of Godot and Redot, we have pretty similar content. We have the executable and the console, okay, which is this one. So this is Godot, this is going to be Redot. But in the case of Blazium, we have two extra files, which are these application extensions, okay? They basically included that. I'm not going to dig deeper into that topic of why. If you want to comment that down below, you can do that for more information. But let's now right away basically start extracting each of these ones. So here we have them all, and I want to open them up, okay? So we kind of start to see the differences between them. So here we have Godot. Now let me open up Redot, this one, the executable, not the console. We're not going to be covering that. Blazium, it should be this one, I believe, yes. So here we have them. So here we have Blazium with its own purple theme. Here, as I told, here it says 4.3 stable, but in reality, as far as I have spoken and tested, I spoke, as I told you, to one of the creators of Blazium. They basically told me that it includes most of the features of 4.4, and that's correct, okay, as far as I have tested. So this is Redot and this is Godot. As you can see, well, the main difference is that, well, Godot's window is a little bit bigger, nothing that we can worry about. So let's go ahead and create a brand new project over here in Godot. I will call this one Godot. Okay, and let's press create in this case. And let me now go to Redot and do the same thing. So I will call it just Redot. Until now, everything quite similar. The only change, well, here we don't have the edits now button, etc. But until now, both, well, the three of them are quite similar. So Blazium, and let's come back over here. and let's put it in the downloads as well. And in this case we do have the edit now button, because once again this is like as if it were Godot 4.4. So let's press create once again and let's give it a second. So let's start off with the first one, which is Godot. This is Godot, then we have Redot over here, and then we have Blazium. We can start to see the first differences that I also read. First of all is the change of font. In Godot and Redot, I believe it's the exact same one. We have some slight differences in, for example, the spacing of it between the elements, I believe. Because, well, you can check here that these buttons, for example, over there are a little bit more separated, as well as here in the file system. Once again, super small changes. But a bigger change in Blazium is that they have changed the font. So the font is this one. I personally like it much more. I know that probably you can change this font in Godot as well. But anyway, it is natively done like this. And once again, here in Blazium, I believe, yes, the spacing and the font sizes and those things are a little bit different at the first sight. Once again, in Redot, as it is 4.3, we don't have the game tab, so we don't have access to that, but in Blazium, we do have it. So those are the differences at the first sight. Also, we have like different icons, I believe, over here at the top. Yes, the icons are definitely different from Redot and Godot, and also like the default environment is also set up a little bit differently, okay? In Redot, what we have is basically here a new horizon color, this one, so we can also set the horizon color. If we check this in Blazium, we still have it, okay, as you can see. Previously, it was only something in Redot, but now, as you can see in Godot, it is not that horizon color. For you to check the differences, for example, if we create a new 3D scene and we add a camera, in Godot we have the preview. We can also, for example, favorite properties, so they are showcased at the very top. This is something that we can do in Godot. In Redot, we shouldn't be able to do it. So camera, we don't have the preview. If I right click in any of these properties, I can't favorite it. But in Blazium, I should be able to do that. Here we have the preview, and if we right click on any of these, we can favorite them. Once again, you can see a difference in the UI and the fonts, okay? You can like it or you may not, okay? So in this case, Godot and Blazium are quite similar, because they are both kind of working in 4.4. But basically Redot stays a little bit behind. Once again, the same thing with the game tab, that these ones Godot and Blazium have and Redot doesn't. But something to also note about this is that they are currently working on an experimental version of Redot, and they say that they're going to be releasing something like 1 month. And probably in this version, they are going to actually be updating this to 4.4, so we'll have access to everything that currently Godot and Blazium has, and even more stuff that we are going to be seeing. Because as we have checked right now, there is no significant new features in Redot, okay? It is quite similar to Godot and to Blazium, but just that it actually lacks stuff. But there is actually some stuff that is going to be coming soon. I am not going to dig deeper into what traits and structs are. Here is like a super quick explanation of the moderator of Redot. Structs and traits are a little bit hard to explain, but basically, yeah, similar to in C#, for example. If you have coded in Unity, probably maybe you have used structs, for example. I have. Or another language. Basically, structs separate data from behavior and traits define behavior. So once again, maybe these two things are for more intermediate or advanced Godot developers, but once again, something super worth it. Something more maybe easier for those who are maybe more beginners. We have increments and decrements, and maybe, well, this is not something that you can understand right away, but basically in none of these three, I believe, you can do the following. You can't create a script, okay, and declare a variable, for example, an int. It should be an int or a float. I will call it a score, and you can't increase it or decrease it doing this, as you can do in, for example, C#. You can do it. You must do plus equals 1, for example, but you can do score plus plus or score minus minus. This is something that is not possible right now. And this is something that is compatible in other languages. And by the way, let's copy this code, try to execute it in Redot, if in chance this is implemented. And once again, these all things that I'm mentioning should be implemented like in the official release of them. This should give an error as well. And I believe that in Blazium, they didn't tell me that they implemented this by chance. So I believe that we should be having the exact same error. There we have it. And also something quite interesting for once again a beginner are twin nodes. Twin nodes allow you to basically animate different behaviors and interactions. And right now, in order to use twins, you have to code them manually. And that's the reason why I personally don't tend to use them a lot, because it's not maybe so intuitive. But if you were to have a node that would actually work as a twin, that would actually make things much simpler. So this is something that they are also planning on releasing. Now, something else for more advanced developers is that they have built or are going to be releasing with a new version that it's only in something like a month, an RSA implementation, which is basically for encryption. And this is important for some data protection over networks for multiplayer games, digital signatures, user verification, well, and more stuff has to do with the network and with multiplayer games. So if you had some problems with multiplayer games in terms of encryption, well, this will definitely help you a lot. So, well, here he also explains the next 3 things for this are blah, 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 blah. Once again, not covering that in depth. If you really understand what this is and the advantages, you can pause the video and give it a more time to read it. And also in terms of the future, some of these things, we can actually look at them right now. We have the Redot launcher. So if we go to Redot website, let's go to the origin. And if we go here, scroll down a little bit until we find here the posts, we can view all. And here in this 2025 post, we can scroll down a little bit, find even more stuff about the future of it. And here we have the Redot engine launcher. This will be basically a place where, well, you can manage your projects a little bit better. You can change versions of the engine directly here. You can update it, organize your projects a little bit better, manage add-ons and asset packs. So quite interesting, something that neither Blazium nor Godot currently have. Well, then a specific Redot asset library and Redot docs overhaul, well, basically to change the documentation, I believe. And they also have the idea of releasing an academy. I believe they also mentioned here something related to, yes, here the Redot Academy, basically a website where they offer free resources in terms of tutorials, documentation, etc. to learn the engine a little bit more. So to summarize Redot, until right now, it is in version 4.3.1. So we are going to be lacking everything that was included in 4.4. So we are going to be one version like that they are not going to be able to take advantage of. But they are planning in something of like 1 month, I believe, to actually migrate to 4.4, and not only migrate to 4.4, but include all these things. Some of these are for more advanced developers, such as traits and structs, but there are also interesting things for the beginner developers, such as increments and decrements and twin nodes. And by the way, something that I did want to mention is that, of course, the main advantage of using Godot is that you always get all the latest features, okay? So you don't have to cope with this, that, okay, yes, this engine is outdated, it has this, but it doesn't have that. Well, in Godot, you always have everything, all the latest stuff. It always has constant updates. Check here, Godot 4.4.1, March, 26 March, 4.4 release candidate 1, 21 March. Like every time, every week, we're getting something new. Whereas, if, for example, in Redot, it is completely understandable. Once again, we have things maybe once a month or something like that. Because, of course, Godot has the biggest number of developers and the most amount of money, because it's the engine itself. These two are forks of this. So it is obvious that they will have less resources. So now let's go to Blazium, in which, as you can see, we have even more information. I do have to say that here maybe the information that we have, at least what they told me and what I researched for Blazium, maybe they are more tailored for the more advanced developer. Because if you are a beginner developer, someone that just creates games, you won't really take advantage of CSV support, ENV support, SQLite module. You will, for example, take advantage of the custom theme builder, I will check in a second, or even the multiplayer service if you create multiplayer stuff. But I just wanted to mention that because, for example, here Redot did create not small things, but, well, some stuff that is worth it for a beginner developer, such as, these two. But maybe Blazium, we don't have like that main focus. I believe that they are, of what I can see over here, they're focusing more on more advanced features. For example, you can deploy your games on Discord. They have created their own Steam module, and here's some stuff that we are actually explaining. By the way, if you want to read more about all these posts, because there is like a lot to cover, you can go to Blazium website, go to the blog, and here you can read like literally everything about this. Let's say that we want to read more about how do we deploy games on Discord or anything like that. Well, there is all the information here, how to do it, what are the advantages of doing it like this, whatever. So you can read more information there. But once again, if you are a complete beginner, you may not want to play your games on Discord, you may not want to play your games on YouTube, because now YouTube in some regions they are testing out like some kind of platform where they can indeed publish your own games on YouTube. You may not need a lobby, a login service, ENV, CSV, SQLite module. So that's something that I do want to point out. It is just my thought. So for example, let's start with this one. I tried to ask the developer, okay, which are the main features for basically a beginner or somebody that is like a general user. So for in terms of the better CSV support is CSV files, sorry, are the files that are, for example, Excel files or Google spreadsheets files, okay, those tables. So the thing is that in game development, CSV files are mainly used for translation. So you may have one row, one column for English and one column for Spanish. So the label for the play button would be play, okay, that would be the label, but in Spanish it would be other text. So basically CSV files allow you to organize that data pretty easily. So the thing is that CSV was stuck as a translation file, meaning you couldn't use CSV for dialogue or drop tables or anything. So whenever you wanted to import a CSV file, it would always be treated as if it was going to be used for a translation file. But as here we were talking, there are actually more usages to CSV files. For example, balancing items, drops, etc. For example, also dialogues, NPC information, item stat data, etc. For some of the data you could also store it in dictionaries, arrays, lists, etc. But well, sometimes making this in Excel is much easier. Now also for those who like multiplayer, the network and all that, well, ENV support. And here, well, I was checking with him this definition of what an ENV file is. The ENV file serves as a centralized location to store configuration settings for your project, for your multiplayer project as far as I know. This can include API keys, database connection strings, environment-specific configurations, and more. And basically, this is usually made in a separate file because it is easier to manage and update all this data. And basically here I was talking with him, well, when you have environment variables, use env files to store servers, all that. So basically the new things that you natively now support this thing in the engine. Once again, here we're getting into more complicated stuff that I don't really use. So if any of this is not correct, my explanation was not the best one, feel free to actually adjust my definitions and my explanations in the comments down below. Now for SQLite, basically, they now have a module. So now you can use SQLite data, okay, of a database inside of the engine. We also now have a custom theme builder, and this is something super interesting for those who may be like a more general Godot user. So now if we go to Blazium, okay, and we want to create a theme, let's go to the, okay, let me just delete this. And let me create a new user interface, and well, let me add just here a couple of notes. So therefore, for example, we'll have a label and a button, quite simple. And you may know that you can use themes to better handle UI customization, okay? Of course, you can still go to a label and here manually go to theme overrides and modify the font size, the font, whatever. But using a theme is much easier and much more expandable when you have like bigger UIs. So you can go to theme and here you can create a new theme. And let's open it up. So what you can do is go to project settings. I believe that you have to turn on no, you don't really have to have a advanced settings. So GUI theme, okay? And here, let me actually make this a little bit smaller. And well, whatever I modify here should actually modify like the default theme, okay, for the UI. So let's go over here, project settings, GUI. So let's, for example, get the font size. So let's try to look for it. Or here, font size 16. So let's make this much bigger, something like 50, for example. And there we have it, okay, quite interesting. Of course, now if I wanted to modify this in a specific theme, for example, we could do it. Like for example, over here, let me make this a little bit bigger. Default font size, we had set this here in 3050. So if we want this to be like even bigger, 100, we could directly override it over there. So this would be basically kind of modifying the default settings of a theme. So let's make this, I don't know, 25, and let's actually delete here the override so that we can modify directly here. And we can do well, lots of things here. Every single option or most of them are directly explained here in their blog once again, so you can take a look at it, but you can start to see the advantage of this. Let's, for example, change the, I don't know, the base color. So instead of making this gray, let's make this some kinds of pink, and the custom font color, let's make, I don't know, yes, blue, I don't know, So there we have it, custom font color, but well, this is for this. So we should modify other one, which is, well, you get it, right? Basically, I'm not going to be playing around with all these options. But for example, let's add an outline here of 5. And here we have everything. Well, when let's make it even bigger so we can actually see it. There we have it. You can also see it over there. Let's modify the font outline color. So let's make it red. Okay, and there you can see it even more. And once again, the good thing is that you can get to modify all this as an override in, well, the different places, okay? As if you were using like a normal theme. Think of this as the default theme, okay? And then as in any theme, you can override the different values and properties. You also have Windows ARM32 and ARM64 builds. So this is quite interesting because when we download Blazium, okay, let's go back to Blazium. If you remember, we were able to select times 85 times 75. These are for 64 and 32 bits, which are like for newer computers, but for even older computers, well, you have these 2 versions, okay? That's also maybe interesting for some people working in older PCs or tablets, Chromebooks, etc. They also offer a multiplayer service, and about this is also worth mentioning that they're going to be releasing the services with the license system. If you need anything under 1k users, it's free. Anything above, we charge a fee for Blazium engine development. Since 98% of indie developers will not have 1,000 players playing their game at once, basically it is free. This is what the official moderator or creator told me. And they even have a game, okay? So let me just copy this, in which, as you can see, they use their multiplayer lobby system, which is also explained further in their own blog, okay? So let's go over here, and well, I'm not going to be able to play the game because I have no one to play with, but well, you can put here your name, you have settings, start, whatever. Let's just do create game, for example, and well, you have the title for your lobby, I believe, the password for it, if it is private or not, max, etc. So you can actually play online, okay, with all this, and once again, everything done with Blazium and their multiplayer service, okay? So I know it's been like a lot of information. If you want to check it more in depth, in the description down below, I'm going to be converting this into a PDF so that they're going to be able to read it more in depth, okay, if you want to check it out. Once again, as you have seen, some of these topics are pretty advanced or more complex, at least for me. So if whenever I committed a mistake, just kindly let me know in the comments so that I can correct it for a next video, or at least we can clarify it in a pinned comment. And well, as you can see, there's been like a lot of research, a lot of time that I have to put in on this, completely published here for free on YouTube. So it would be amazing if you could just subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment it, share it, wherever, so that you will really help me a lot reach a broader audience and hopefully help more people understand the differences that we have until now, at least in these 3 engines, okay? So once again, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.